Hi, I'm Marc Kundmann. We're in my studio in Provincetown. What I'm really known for in general is working with wax mediums. For many years I worked with encaustic, which is a hot melted wax that's pigmented. And I arrived at that kind of been playing with mediums, and I've now come to a place where I'm using my encaustic materials, but in a non-heated way. So I'm going back to this idea of cold wax. So I have this sort of immediacy of the acrylic paint underpainting, but then I start layering oil and cold wax on top of that. Through oil painting, there's a cold wax medium that you can use in your painting in your oil paints that makes it really thick and spreadable, kind of like frosting. This is, it's basically like it is softened wax, and I'm just going to mix some paint in with it. So this is just standard oil paint. By using that, I learned use some different tools, not just a brush, some palette knives, also scraping, creating a little depth and texture with my work, with the application of the paint. So when I started painting, I start with charcoal and acrylic usually on a wood panel, just randomly splashing color on, spinning it around. With the acrylic paint, what's great about it, you can throw water on it in the early stages and it just starts creating drips and runs. Kind of like what happened in my original encaustic pieces, where I would use a blowtorch on them and the wax would be running, and you can see a lot of drips in my work. So I do that with the acrylic phase. And then I end up with this underpainting where I just look at it and I start seeing things that feel right to me, and I can't really explain it in any more precise way than that. It just feels like something, and then I just will add more color or lines, and I'll move on to the oil and wax part of the painting, where once the acrylic is all dried, oil and wax on top. With the encaustic, what's really beautiful about that process is that all those layers get preserved. So each time you have you've painted a layer on there, it doesn't really mush into it. It just sort of sits on top of it, which allows you then to kind of excavate back to them if you want to. I really have a very specific idea of what I'm gonna paint when I approach a canvas, and which is a little scary because it feels like every time I start a painting, I'm working from scratch. It's like a new experience for me. I could almost, I could easily turn this into a portrait of a person right now. I could start seeing a head here, shoulders, nose, eyes. I could take it that way. And the compositions evolve out of the process of painting. It's better for me if I just let the paintings kind of tell me what they are. And that's also what I'm doing in this new technique too that I'm working with, that the cold wax allows me to preserve those layers of color underneath. And if you look at them closely too, I'm carving back in and kind of rediscovering some of the colors that the underpainting, that become almost as much a part of the painting as everything on top. But yeah, you could see so I had one iteration of a face became, I don't know if you can start seeing it, but it almost, to me, I kind of like this idea of this figure. Lately, the objects that are showing up in my paintings are boats for some reason, sailboats in particular. I've never painted those before, but for some reason this happens to be, the year that I paint sailboats. And those, I don't know why. I think if you ask me a year from now why I was painting sailboats, I'll be able to tell you, or 2 years from now. But right now I don't know. But they reveal themselves to me. And then, but yeah, so over several days that I actually kind of like what's happening there. So you see a little figure looking off this way maybe. But through applying more the oil and wax, I end up at this final destination. Really no forethought that was what I was going to do. But that's a really wonderful experience. And to me, that's what painting, where I get my pleasure from. And it's really great when other people respond to that. That's a bonus. So, but it's really not about the medium. I'm more interested in the painting, and so however I arrive at it, I hope people enjoy it. I mean, that's really my goal.